I love a good cup of coffee. Fortunately, this isn't it. Last year I went to the Netherlands, as many of you know. I did a couple videos, and they're going to be up here or here or there. They'll be up there. One thing that stood out there was the coffee. It was just delicious. They had these machines at the hotels that we're at that just brewed a perfect cup of coffee each time. I miss that coffee. I mean, here, what do we have? We've got those machines that you put the pods in. They never really deliver. You can always go to the coffee shops that will give you, well, let's see, a cup full of sugar milk or milk substitute, whichever you prefer, with over roasted beans. I like just a plain black cup of coffee. And you go there and it's just over roasted bitterness. Coffee shouldn't be bitter. It should be subtly bitter. So how do we fix this? Well, instead of looking to the future for the next gadget that costs $100 or so, that produces a mediocre coffee, I say we look to the past. And I've got 3 tools, developed in the early 1900s or 1800s that still produce a great cup of coffee today. Let's make some coffee. So what do you need for a really good cup of coffee? Well, simplicity. That's all you need. Well, a few ingredients. Coffee beans. I like a little bit of salt. Water. Water's important. My water kind of tastes like, If your water doesn't taste good, your coffee is not going to taste good. So, what do? I get bottled water. And no, I don't get those little itty-bitty bottles that collect in the landfills for millions of years. I get something in recyclable containers. 5 gallons at a time. And this cost me $5. A lot cheaper than the $5 or $1 a bottle other stuff. Now we need a device to brew your coffee. And I've got 3 devices here. And none of them cost more than, get this out of here. None of them cost more than about $20. We'll start off with the exotic. We've got the Vietnamese filter. Very simple. 4 pieces, a filter basket that holds the coffee, a press that holds it down, and a lid. Very simple. Let's talk about the second one. Another one, very simple. The French press. Put the grounds, hot water in there, and then you have this plunger mechanism. This plunger mechanism just pushes the grounds to the bottom. Coffee stays at the top. Now I'm going to tap into the camper in you, which, to tell you the truth, makes a really good cup of coffee. The percolator. All of these simple, all of them about $20. So let's start making some coffee. So one other thing that you need, now I've got some measuring devices and stuff like that. Those are important. You can weigh these out, but who wants to break out a scale that early in the morning when your dog needs to go out and you want to grab a cup of coffee, hit the deck with your favorite flannel shirt on, and sip a cup of coffee and watch the dog play with squirrels. You also, and I highly recommend this, grind your own. I've just got a simple blade style grinder. It works. Works for me. Since I'm going to be making a pot of each of these, I'm going to grind quite a few beans, and then I'm going to pull from that. Okay? Set these to the side, and I'm going to get to grinding. Okay, for the first pot that I'm going to make, I'm going to use the old-fashioned percolator. Why? Well, it takes the longest. This is going to take about 7 to 10 minutes. First, let's talk about the percolator. The percolator, very simple. You've got a metal tin. You have this tube that sits in here. What it does is as the water boils, it shoots the water up through this. It collects in here and spreads down upon your coffee, which goes in here. And you throw this lid on there too. So this assembly goes in here. You set it on medium heat for about 7 to 10 minutes. You can start this off in cold water. I don't recommend it. That's why I've got water boiling back there, or, well, getting started. So the first thing we need to do is put the coffee in here. My percolator holds 32 ounces of water. Most people are going to recommend 1 tablespoon per every 6 ounces. 1 tablespoon of ground coffee. This is a 2 tablespoon measure. I kind of like it a little bit stronger, so I'm going to go 1 tablespoon for every 4 ounces. So I'm going to need 8 teaspoons. There's 2, 4, 6, and 8. Now with this, you don't want to tamp that down because you'll push it through the little holes. My water's up to a boil. I'm going to put it in here, fill it up to the 32 ounce line. There we go. Put this down in the center. Put the lid on. Flip this lid on. And then I'm going to set it on the burner back there. About medium heat. And we'll let that percolate. So the next one we have is the Vietnamese Press. This one is designed to drip right into the cup. But to make a good Vietnamese coffee, it needs a little bit of condensed milk. I'm going to put in about, that's probably about 3 tablespoons. I like these little bags. They're very convenient, especially if you're just using it for coffee. Okay, so this goes on. The coffee grounds go in here. So Vietnamese coffee is a little bit stronger than mere mortal coffee. So with that being said, I'm going to make about 6 to 8 ounces. So I'm going to actually use 6 tablespoons of coffee in this. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to measure out my water. Okay, that's about 6 ounces, well, maybe a little over. So the first thing you need to do is you need to bloom these coffee grounds. I'm just going to pour a little bit on there and just let it sit for a minute. What this does is it helps it absorb water and get it ready to go. I'm going to do the same thing with the French press. Okay, so that's set for about 30 seconds. Time to pour the rest of the coffee in. Oh, hold on. I gotta put this down. This will compress the coffee just a little bit. Now you want to do that while it's wet. You don't want to do that while it's dry because you'll push the grounds through the filter. Now I'm going to pour in the rest of the 6 ounces. And just let this drip. Simple as that. Now, French press. Probably the easiest. Pull out the plunger assembly. Again, 32, so I need 8 of these. 8 tablespoons. 2, 3, 4. Maybe a little more. Now, we take our water and we just stir in, I don't know, maybe a half cup. And again, we just kind of let this bloom. Now let's pour in the rest of the water. Now you don't want to pour it all the way to the top because you got to have room for this plunger. Now, I like one more step to that. I like to come in and stir my grounds again, just to make sure that they're free floating and there are no air bubbles in it. Then the plunger goes down. This is just more, right now, it's just to kind of keep the warmth in, stuff like that. Now you could preheat this, you can preheat that. That's up to you. Now let's take a look at our Vietnamese coffee. All the water's drained through. Pull this off. Stir, enjoy. Some people with the Vietnamese coffee, they're going to make the coffee into another container, say like this measuring cup, and then pour it in and make other cups. Like mine is probably big enough that I could do at least 2 to 3 cups at a time. But you can get smaller ones. We've got the percolator. First thing you have to do once it's done perking, it's gone, it's 7-10 minutes, is you need to pull this basket out. If you don't pull that out, what can happen is it's just going to keep cooking. So now, with the percolator, one thing I recommend, let it sit for a minute. The reason why is all that, there are going to be some grounds that make their way through the filter. It's always going to be the case. I want them to settle down a little bit. Okay, let's pour a cup from the percolator. And again, you want to pour slow. You want to reduce the amount of grounds going in there. There we go. And let's talk to French press now. It's ready to go. Very simple. You want to push this down slowly. It does 2 things. 1, it emulsifies the oils into it. And 2, if you go too fast, you'll get a blowout. So slowly push this down. Now, what I like about the French press is look at that crema on top of that. That nice mahogany foam. It just tells me that it was brewed right. So there you have it. 3 old school versions of coffee. We've got the Vietnamese, we've got the percolator, and we've got the French press. Like I said, these were all invented back in the 1850s to 1920s. Why improve perfection? I'm Chef Terry. I'll see you next week. And, hey, why don't you go down there, like, subscribe, smash all those buttons. I'll see you next week.